How you doing? And welcome back to Taekwondo Bro. Today we have episode 2 in the Kickboxing versus Taekwondo series. I think this one's actually one of the better fights. They're all really good, but this one is really athletic and it's really high paced. So these two guys are going to be going at it the whole time. They really don't stop at any given point, and they're going to be throwing crazy kicks constantly. So as the text said above, this is a viewer suggestion from Armando Ramos 2887. So give him a shout out in the comments if you see him. Anyways, let's get to this. So as we see, we have the Taekwondo fighter and we have a kickboxer. You can tell the uniforms, I'm assuming. Right now, we're seeing a lot of really athletic kicks. So there's a lot of flexibility and control involved in this, and I do think this kickboxer has cross-trained a little bit. You're just going to see these really precise chambers that, look at that kick right there. It's like a hook kick, right head height, went way over. That's a hard kick to do, and that's something you train a lot in Taekwondo. So now we're clinching in. So we're going to go over a couple things here. Now this video is pretty old. It's from probably 1995 or earlier, and it's from an exhibition. So these two fighters, they're not supposed to be looking for knockouts, but in these videos I've been seeing a lot of pretty strong contact, so they're definitely going at it. And their equipment's also not the same, so each fight is a little different. The first fight we covered, one of the fighters who was a Taekwondo guy had like the very traditional point sparring gloves. Now if I'm looking at these two right here, they have the foot pads that are usually indicative of Taekwondo or karate, but they both have boxing gloves on. So even within the fights, the equipment is not standardized, and that was something you saw a lot back in the day before MMA. So now we're going back and forth. Now take a look at these chambers. So that side kick from the Taekwondo fighter, he's really good at using it to control distance, and it looks like he has a little bit of a reach advantage, nothing crazy, but he's using that side kick to really control. Although he has that control, you're going to see a lot of times that the Taekwondo fighter has a very low guard. He keeps his hands almost where his rib cage is when he's fighting, and he's pretty quick. He'll put them back up, but that leaves him at a disadvantage when the kickboxer throws usually an overhand right. So we're breaking up the round right now, and they're going to start again, and trust me, round 2 is just as energetic as round 1. So this clip has a couple of jump cuts back to cool moments. You'll see that. So right now, side kick, that was pretty cool, right over the top. You see now he's relying on that to stop the kickboxer from closing in. But then we saw right there a second ago, a right overhand jump turning hook kick from the kickboxer, which is crazy. That's an awesome kick to throw, and it was countered by an axe kick. And now these two guys are wrapped up. Now according to the rules, they're going to break it up, and they're going to get back at it. Right back to distance. Now they're both kind of fencing right now, and you saw that overhand right again coming in. So they both kind of were throwing instant side kicks, and if you time it right, you can just close distance before the kick comes out. And back again with more spin kicks. So spin kicks are good because they let you have like more range on like which side you want to kick. You can use your right leg to attack the left side of an opponent a lot easier, and it also gives you a lot of power, but it requires more timing and more balance. And you see the fighter there, the kickboxer, was penalized for grabbing the ropes while kicking. I'm not exactly sure what the rules are with the ropes here, but apparently you can't do that, and we're going to see that again coming up soon. Now, Taekwondo fighters switching feet. Again, you see that a lot in Taekwondo. They train you to fight with both sides, a lot more evenly than a lot of other martial arts. Now, I got a little sloppy there at the end. Kind of got tripped up, and that's the end of this. They're going to reinitiate in a second. Alright, we're going to see a couple replays of the substantial moments from the round. We're going to go over this in slow motion once we finish the fight. But we're just going to roll through it one time regular. So again, look at the athleticism here. These guys are really good at kicking, good at moving. These guys are jumping back and forth, covering a lot of distance. And they're not only really quick, but their cardio is insane. They haven't slowed down at all, and they're both really throwing hard. They're not just throwing anything slow. So look at that. That was great technique on the turning hook kick there. And these side kicks are also posing a substantial threat, as we saw right there. So Taekwondo guy was able to time that correctly and knock him back, controlling that distance. But as we saw there, the kickboxer was able to close in, so it's not a perfect defense. You need to get the timing just right. If you go a little too early, they're just going to block and close in, and too late, you're not going to get the kick out in time. It's not going to have power. Alright, now look at this footwork, shuffling back and forth. Again, grabbing the ropes there. That was a good hook kick, and it went up high, but like I said, they stopped it for that reason. Clinching up, not allowed in this fight. They're going to break it up. And right back to these instant kicks. We're going to see a lot of spin kicks coming up, so just look at the timing here. So, alright, knocked back to the Stone Ages with that one. And that's what happens when you're able to anticipate a spin kick and you have a good side kick right there. Slide right in, cover that distance, prevent the attacker from getting that strong impact off. Now look at this, shifting back and forth. Let's go over some more substantial kicks here. So the problem with this fight is there's so many cool kicks that I can't slow them all down or this video would be really long. So that was a great right hand right there and coming right into a jump turn side kick. And that one was not intercepted, so that was really powerful. That kick is great for just getting huge amounts of power and covering good distance, but it leaves you vulnerable, so you got to know what you're doing. A lot of spin kicks getting thrown there in like a tornado. That was pretty interesting to see. Again, look at that right from the kickboxer coming in over the top of the guard of the Taekwondo fighter. As the fight goes on, you see that the kickboxer gets better at timing it. So that was a good one right there. And then it kind of ends up in this weird sweep that they're going to break up. It wasn't really a clean sweep if you've seen the first episode of the series. That fight had a couple more throws that were a little, more substantial. But they did go down, so I got to give them credit for that. And they're breaking it up, Yeah, I love when they restart the fight with just 1 second left, just to ring the bell the second you start moving. Alright, let's take another look at some of these impacts here. So another lead foot side kick. Adjusting the sleeves, I guess the gloves were getting caught in the martial arts uniform, which is another way that the equipment standardization, kind of changes things. Look at that jump turn kick again. Didn't land, but that was awesome. Countered by a machine gun roundhouse kick, so throwing multiple roundhouse kicks and just rechambering. And then we're going to move in again. Axe kick over the top, so this is a lot of high level kicks here. And they're really landing too. They're not just getting thrown for the most part. Alright, they're both kind of shooting side kicks at each other right now. That right hand coming over the top again. Getting more accurate as the fight goes on. Cancelled jump roundhouse kick, which is cool. And then just right into that, overhand hook. That was a turn hook kick there. It landed not quite 100%, but it definitely did impact. And then that was countered by like a headlock there, which is interesting. Alright, getting back into motion here. Now that fighter was knocked all the way back into the ropes, which is interesting to see. Hook kick over the top from the Taekwondo fighter. The kickboxer backed up, but he went onto the ropes, so they had to restart the fight. Alright, we're going to wrap it up here in just a second. We got a couple more techniques just for the road here. And look at this fight. This is the end, and they're still throwing these crazy kicks back and forth, going at each other. No breaks at all for them. And then ending it by getting knocked over. You guys celebrating here. You always got to celebrate, make sure they know you think you're winning. And look at that. Moving out. Hands low. Roundhouse kick. And I think that's pretty much it for this one. Ending strong as they started. Now we're just going to go over a couple of these cool slow motion impacts here. And the technique here was great. I like seeing these old fights like this. They're very interesting. And I wonder what the context of this was. Like, what was this? It looks like they're in a school almost. You see the basketball hoops back there. But anyways, thanks guys for tuning in. If you have any suggestions, just leave them below. I'll get to them eventually. And if you have anything else you'd like to comment down below, maybe what your favorite technique was, if you have any experience in these type of fights or kicks like this, just let people know. This channel's about having fun. Alright, take care, and I'll see you next time.